Welcome back to my Autism Ally podcast. Today we're speaking with Tiffany. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Losing it, but that's okay. That's normal, right?
Hi, Susan.
Just to fill in for the folks, Tiffany and Sam and I have known each other for years, for a very long time. Tiffany has been an integral part of our autism acceptance events up here in Northeast Indiana for, oh my gosh, we're going to date us all. What, 10 years, Tiff?
I think I've been doing it for about 9. I haven't done it the whole time.
Okay. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's still a long time.
So we've known each other for quite a while. So this is going to be a fun podcast. It's probably going to be a very emotional podcast for us all. Mm-hmm. But Sam, why don't you get us started?
So Tiffany, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your family, and your child with autism.
Well, I'm Tiffany. I am a married mom of 5. I'm kind of an administrative assistant with Parker, towing and recovery. Been there for about 10 years. Hunter's 10, and he's my little guy. He's the one with autism. And my kids range from 8 to 14.
She has a busy household.
Oh, yeah.
As you say, probably never a dull moment.
Never.
I like to say it's straightforward with care.
That's what we'll go with.
That is good. I'm going to keep that for future reference.
So how old was your son, who's 10, who's on the spectrum, when he was diagnosed?
He was 4. He was in pre-K. His teacher and the school were actually the ones that made us get him tested. But from the time he was born up until 4, we had so many people saying, hey, we think your child might have autism. You're going to want to get that checked out. And it was like instant red. Like, talk about my kid that way.
Yep.
Well, we were wrong.
You know what? It's so funny you say that because I feel like that's some of our parents. Like you just kind of are like, don't talk about my child. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Now, have you told him? Does he know he has autism? Does he understand it? If he did?
He knows, we tell him, but he doesn't. I don't think he grasps the concept. And most of the time when we go to the events or he sees the puzzle pieces or things like that, and he's like, hi, I'm Hunter and I am autism.
Oh my God, I love that.
Okay, kid, you got a point.
So with him being so young and things, does he cognitively understand autism?
Not the first clue.
Okay.
And not the first clue.
And just so our listeners know, nonverbal, verbal.
He is verbal. He actually started using sentences probably 1.5 years ago, like full sentences. And up until recently, he didn't do very well at like expressing the things that were going on in his head. And you're constantly, we point at our nose when we want to get his attention. So you were constantly telling him, slow down, and you're snapping your fingers and pointing to your nose. And it's very, very recently, it has gotten so much better.
Mm-hmm. So, and for our listeners, so level 1, level 2, level 3.
He is, I believe, 2.
Okay.
Okay. It has been so long, realistically.
I feel like as a parent, we get told whatever it is, and then we're just like, okay, we have autism, we got this, and just keep moving forward.
That is exactly, that's exactly what we go through. And when we're explaining to, especially our youngest, because he is brilliant. He has a absolutely brilliant mind. I'm pretty sure he is the human embodiment of Stewie Griffin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's 100% honest. But we have to tell him all the time, we're like, he doesn't think the way you do. His brain doesn't process the way you do. So you've got to kind of give him a minute. And he's like, fine, but he's annoying. Listen, so are you, but we still love you.
Right?
There you
Oh,
go.
that's my kid too. I hear you.
Yeah.
Let's say I know a couple people like that. So one of the reasons we invited you on today, Tiff, is we're focusing today's episode's focusing on how a caregiver's illness can affect families in their autism journey. And gosh, it was probably a little over a year ago now. You called me up on the phone, and we were in the throes of planning an autism acceptance event and all the things, and you were in tears and were telling me that you had been diagnosed with cervical cancer.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to make you cry. I'm probably going to cry.
Thanks for that, Susan.
And I can remember from our conversation how hard it was for you to admit that you were struggling at the time, and how awful you felt telling me everything that was going on, and that you were like, I can't help, I can't do all the things I was used to doing. And I want to chat more about today about how your health has impacted your child's autism journey.
Okay.
Yeah, grab a box of tissues now, everybody.
Yes.
Because we've got them all near us.
Oh, goodness. So it was a struggle. Before, when Hunter was born, I made some really, really poor life decisions. And one of which was being in a horrible relationship with an abusive person. And after having Hunter, I never went back and got any exams. It just, when you're in a relationship where you're being constantly degraded and you forget your needs, you focus solely on surviving and making sure your children survive.
Just say, because then it's not just about you anymore. And I think that's what makes that so hard, is because, the moment you hold your baby, life changes.
Yeah. But so I never did any of that. And I went forcefully. I was having some other medical issues and all the other things going on. So I went and got checked out, and they called and they were like, well, we would like to go over your results. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And they were like, we found active cancer cells. But we have a procedure we want to do. We only found them in your cervix. As you know, I'm a little dramatic. So I called my husband at work, and of course I'm in tears, and my kids don't quite understand what's happening, but it's the end of the night. So Hunter's getting ready for bed, and Caden's doing whatever kids do at that point with their life. And he's getting off work. So I called a friend of mine and her husband. And just a few months prior, he got the all clear from having testicular cancer. So I called and I was like, hey, so you guys want to go get pancakes? They're like, what? Why? I'm like, well, I found out I had pancakes. I found out I had cancer. And my eggs are now scrambled. So, can we go get cancer pancakes?
Oh my
And they're
gosh.
like, yeah. I'm okay. So we get there, and my husband meets us there. And of course, the damn lady at IHOP's like, let me pray with you, which only made
Oh.
things 10 times worse, because the last thing I want to do is have a serious moment with my cancer pancakes. And yeah, so we found it out. They did the procedure. They went back in and tested again. And they said, yep, you're good. You're good. You're in the clear. And I want to say between Thanksgiving up until the first of the year, I had a period the entire time.
Ugh.
Oh.
So
All of us women just groaned in sympathy.
yeah, it was stupid. So I went to a completely different doctor, and they were like, hey, what's going on? So I told him, and he's like, well, let's get your ultrasound done before you come in. And they went around all the steps and did all the things. And he said, yeah, there's masses, and it's no longer just in your cervix, it's in your uterus. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do? And he's like, realistically, your tubes have been tied for 9 years. Said, yeah. And he's like, do you plan on having more children? I'm like, you don't know this, but you've never met my children. So no.
I'm
And he
sorry.
said, okay.
We know this because we can laugh because we know your
Right.
kids and we
Right.
know
Oh, yeah.
you.
Oh yeah.
I don't want
Well,
the
I feel-
listeners to think like we're evil.
Right.
No. I love my children.
Oh yeah, your
But
kids are great,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
but
But
I get you.
we have Caden, and Caden, he'll be 14 this year, and he came from a child abuse situation. That's a whole other story to get into. So he's a little on his mind is broken type thing. And my husband and I and our family decided when he came home, we weren't going to talk to him like he was a child anymore. Once you get your ass beat, you deserve to know what's going on and what to expect with life and all the things. And so you got Caden, who's a little bit on the already mentally, emotionally broken kind of stage. So, and he's a mentally, emotionally broken in the good ways. Like, he makes some pretty good, bad jokes when you're like, the hell
When
did you
you're
just say
down.
to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, you do realize that you're 14. And although I am old, I will fight you. Like, we'll do this. But yeah, so they did the hysterectomy, and I went back for my exam afterwards. And he was like, we saved your ovaries, so you don't have to worry about hormones, which he lied. He said I wouldn't have hot flashes, but here I am, 31, and I'm lying because I'm not 31, but I don't want to admit that. But here I am, the young, spry 21-year-old that I am. I'm having hot flashes. Like, my family hates me right now because it'll be dead of winter, and I've got all the windows in the car going and the air blowing, and they're shivering, wearing winter coats, and suck it up. It'll be done in about 20 minutes. I just got to get this one out of the way.
I feel you, girl, because I'm up there and starting that stuff. And I thought, when they said hot flashes, they don't, you have a different vision until you have one. And then once you
it's
have
stupid.
one, whew,
You can't get undressed fast enough.
Oh my
That's the
God.
problem.
Yeah.
And
And you're
we're
not allowed to be at work naked. I mean,
yeah.
and I don't think people understand that.
Oh my God. So true.
Yeah, I completely understand you. I'm older than both of you, and I completely understand you. It is not acceptable to work naked, and I even work from home, so probably not a good idea. You had a lot of up and downs in your journey, and I think, and knowing you, I know that you told your children everything that was going on.
Oh yeah.
And considering there's a bit of an age range between them, did your child with autism process what was happening, understand what was happening? Was he more anxious? Was there more behaviors? How was that? How did that look?
He didn't care. It was, oh, okay. Can I have some macaroni for dinner?
Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, okay. And my oldest, again, who is emotionally just, and he didn't even cry. And he looked at me and he was like, you know what? Could be worse.
Jeez. Oh, those are not the things that you want to hear. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, yeah, you know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Right.
But like the second time it came around, I didn't even want to tell my husband because it was seeing his face. You know, that's my best friend. I don't, and when you tell people that, and you tell your best friends that, and you tell family members, and it turns into a, oh my God, and they just want to surround you. And I love a lot of you, but get the hell away from me.
And we know this because we've known Tiff for a long time. So I get what you're
But
saying. And I would
Oh,
imagine
yeah.
that would have been incredibly hard because here you thought it was gone. You were in the clear, but
Yep.
obviously you were still having symptoms and things.
Yeah,
And
and the first
so,
doctor wasn't even interested in you know going any further than, well, we chopped your cervix off, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, cool. Months later, here we are, and had my eggs scrambled, and that's the whole thing.
I think it's so hard in those moments for our individuals on the spectrum because they don't they don't see the world the same way we do. It's
yes.
okay, that's what's happened. Move on. And not in a bad way, but
Oh
that's
yeah.
how they interpret it. And I know when my dad died, my kid was like, okay. And I'm like, this is your grandfather. The kind of reaction, and I think it also depends on how the parent, what their love language is. If you need to be left alone, you got to be left alone. If you're one that needs a hug and constant people around you, that's what you need. But you've got to know what that is. And then it's hard when you have your kid on the spectrum just be like, mac and cheese, mom, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Because I lost my dad. Yeah, I want to say in like 96, 98ish. He died of cancer.
Okay.
Has started out as some kind of stomach cancer, and it spread to his bones, and he was gone before he knew it, realistically.
Wow.
So in my mind, that's, oh God, I'm gonna die. And I'm not a look on the bright side kind of person. I'm like, okay, um so when I die, I want to be cremated, and I want to be put in a clear urn with googly eyes, so that way I can mess with everybody when I'm dead. And my husband, who's still like trying to process all of this stuff, and he just looks at me and he's like, I just love you so much. I'm like, well, but a lot of it, it's, even though Hunter didn't understand, and Caden, is very shut off to emotions. You know, my support system was amazing between Parker's and the people at work and just my family in general. My brother and I, we live 3.5 hours away. And I think during that time, he and I talked more than we ever have. And we're 7 years apart ish. And we were complete and utter opposites. So for us to sit down and be like, nah, we got this, it's okay. You know, it was definitely helpful to have someone that has known me personally all my life and known all the things that I had been through. Just be like, you know, you're going to get through this, and then we're going to have a party, and we're going to call it a day. So, you know, it was a big difference compared to telling the kids, that's for sure.
Well, and individuals on the autism spectrum process challenging news differently. I mean, I can remember Sam mentioned about when your father died. I remember when my mother passed away, and we took Matthew up to the funeral home to see her before everybody else came, because I really wasn't sure how he was going to react. And he looked at Mom and he said, Grandma. And then he started giggling, which for some individuals on the spectrum, they get those emotions crossed. Mm-hmm. And so I knew when he started laughing in that scenario, the way he wasn't that he thought it was funny. He was really upset. And the way that they process and the way that those emotions can go crosswise, it happens, and it happens for everybody. I mean, I can think of instances where, you know, somebody tells you something and you laugh and you shouldn't laugh, or, you know, it's more of that unexpected reaction. But so besides being in a clear urn with googly eyes,
which I love, by the way, I think I may have to steal that, because that's,
you know, I haven't got it copyrighted yet, but you're more than welcome to use it.
Okay, cool.
Have you considered what life without you looks like for your son on the autism spectrum?
Realistically, yes. But when it came down to everything, there wasn't any real planning. We didn't run out and do a will. We didn't say, hey, you know, if I die, you know, this is what realistically what we want to happen. Because as the two of you know, and everyone that lives in my house, I'm really stubborn and hard-headed. So it was like, it would come in my head and I'd be like, man, I could die. But if I die, who is going to hide all my husband's left shoes? and he just looked at me and he was, oh yeah, his left shoes for like, I want to say he didn't have, like for a month, he didn't have left shoes except for one pair. And I'm not ashamed of that. And I definitely feel like someday he's going to wake up and have no right shoes. But you know, I was entirely too stubborn to sit down and write it out, because if I wrote it out, it became real. And that's, and I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
I don't have time to think that if I'm going to die, I'm going to die, but here's what we're going to do in the meantime. And we did. We enjoyed our time together, and we laughed and we joked and we made ridiculous purchases, one of which I'm still very proud of. And my husband looked at me and was like, Are you kidding me? But I bought an 86-inch television.
If you're going to be home down with cancer and a pandemic, by God, why not?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because I want to know what I'm watching, and I want to count how many blackheads that actress has to make me feel better about mine.
And honestly, Tiff, I thought you were going to tell me about some fabulous tattoo you got, that was one of the extravagant expenditures.
No, I did not do that. I did recently. That was my Mother's Day one. My girlfriend and husband got us tattoos, and we all went and did that. And that was our Mother's Day kind of thing we did.
Cool.
So, but no, it was just an 86-inch TV and a lot of Netflix. But it is exactly true. You can't pour from an empty glass. You can't fix it if you're broken.
I agree. I feel like we sometimes forget that. We run until we're, almost to the end of that cup, and it's hard to sometimes sit back and go, okay, to do tomorrow, how do I get there?
Yeah, I started making checklists because one, if it works for me to keep my head in the game at work, it has definitely got to work for me while I am doing the things at home. Now I don't follow the checklist, which is probably a reason why I don't do all the things I should do. But it's a daily reminder of, hey, you seem a little stressed out,
So, Tiffany, we do this lovely thing at the end of each of our podcasts. And we do you may be an autism parent if. And it's kind of interesting because sometimes people come up with some ones that we've never even thought of. What would you say yours would be?
Mine is if we run out of macaroni, like 100%. The world is all the way over. And if you get like the Walmart brand macaroni, that is not acceptable macaroni. You better go see how much a leg costs on the black market, because if you don't have the good macaroni, it's done. It's
I was gonna say, could we substitute like chicken nuggets? I mean, I'm running through the people I know, and it's like
not in Tiffany's house.
Chicken nuggets, pizza rolls. What's the others?
Peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly.
And he had a thing for the longest time for strawberry milk, and like to the point where my husband would drink some strawberry milk and be like, "Is that yours?" Well, I bought it, but is it yours? Okay, you can have this. I'll just go drink some spoiled milk so that we don't get in the way of everything.
Right. It's like life, having a little, okay, but if two of you drink it, then it's like you don't have none, and then that's going to be like life ending.
Oh yeah, and it's the same way with the remote, because Hunter and his youngest brother, they share a room together, and it is like, and Hunter he's got insomnia on top of having autism, because if you can't just have one fun disorder, let's have three.
He just likes all the,
I know,
all of it. Just take it
all of it. He's got OCD. He's got a thing with washing his hands, which we've slowed him down with that because his hands were raw for the longest time. But, we all know.
We do. And I mean, any type of skin irritation or just, they make our lives interesting.
Matthew picks at dry skin. So
Mm-hmm.
the tips of around his nails, if it's not like, I must have nail scuffers in every nook and cranny in my house, in my car. I must have a dozen nail clippers, because every time he starts picking, a small wound can turn into something that is a lot bigger and a lot more troublesome. And of course, my son loves Band-Aids, wants me to put them on all the time. Does he leave them on? No.
Nope.
So, I get you. I get it.
Yeah. And with the picking, Hunter, he hates shoes.
I feel him there.
Which
about
I
shoes.
understand completely, because shoes suck.
Mhm.
But well, he hates clothes in general. If this kid could walk around naked, he would.
He needs to go to a nudist colony. There we go.
I remember I don't know what was going on, but one day my neighbor called and she's like, "Hey, where you at?" And I'm like, "I'm in the house doing this." And she's like, "Your son is completely naked, standing in the window." And I'm like, "Well, why would you let him do that?" What? Well, I guess I'll take care of him since he's mine, but I don't understand why you would just let him stand there. And so he does that, but he doesn't wear shoes. Got a little sidetracked. So he stubs his toes all the time because, as we all know, gracefulness is not something that is often associated with autism. Or that just might be my genetics in general. But he stubs his toes so hard that he will crack his big toenail, split in half. And then he won't let you clip the toenails because he's afraid you're going to hurt him, because he doesn't know exactly what pain is, just that he knows it's supposed to hurt. Then he thinks you're cutting his off. I don't want your toes, kid. I just would like to not have to replace your sheets every time you get in, because you have now ripped them up like you are Wolverine. So he would sit there and he would like pick the scab off his toe and be like, "Oh no, Mom, it's bleeding. I need a Band-Aid." And we're like, we're out of Band-Aids. You're going to have to stop doing that. And he's like, "No, because I remember the last time you hid them from me, they were downstairs in the basement, in the laundry room, on the shoe rack."
Oh, well, thank you, Tiffany, for taking part in our podcast. We love having you on, and thank you for sharing your story with our listeners.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm excited for this year's autism stuff. So
we are too.
we did I say we loosely. I have voluntold my family of all the things we have to do, because I want you to have fun. So we are making a little over 1,000 popsicle stick frames.
Oh my gosh. I knew nothing about this yet.
Oh yeah, it's going to be excellent. We're going to do picture frames, but with flowers in them, so that they can make their own flowers inside of a vase. They can write their names on the inside. And then this year we're doing something we've never done before, but we want to do something for the parents, because no one knows the struggle of autism more than an autistic child is the parent or the caregiver. So we made a decision, and we decided we were gonna up the budget a little bit, and we threw in a little gift for the parents, and we are making all of those by hand.
Oh my gosh.
So I voluntold my family to do things, which isn't any different than usual.
Voluntold, I'm going to have to steal that.
Same.
That's what my coworkers tell me when I'm like, hey, Autism Walk's coming up. And they're like, yeah, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are we doing? And it requires you being there at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. I hope you brought coffee.
We will have coffee for the volunteers.
That's how we all survived.
It's how we all survive. That's right. But Tiffany, I'm so excited that you are feeling better, that Parker is once again going to be out and a big part of the event this year. With over 88 years in business and over 100 trucks on the road, Parker Towing and Recovery is available for any and all your towing needs. From light to heavy-duty towing, recovery work, hauling equipment, roll-offs, or regular roadside needs, Parker Towing and Recovery is here to keep Fort Wayne moving. Their dispatch center is open 24 hours a day to assist you. Give them a call at 260-485-9014. Parker Towing and Recovering, keeping Fort Wayne hooked. Tiffany, I can't thank you enough for being part of our community for the last 9 years, but also being such a great friend. And I know I speak for Sam when we say we are so thrilled that you are better and that you're healthy and that things are looking up on that front.
Thank you. And I love being there and love talking to you ladies. It's always something exciting.